It doesn't get much more heartbreaking than that. The Sacramento Kings just fired what I believe is the best shot that this team with their current injuries can muster. They were up 16 in a must-win game against the Phoenix Suns, and they lose 108 to 107. We'll go through all of the play-in scenarios now with the Kings in 9th place heading into the final game of the regular season. Plus, De'Aaron Fox and Mike Brown let their opinions on the NBA officiating be known. It's all right here for you on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. Time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. And as you can tell, the mood, at least on this end of the camera, is somber. It's dejected. I know on your side of the screen, or whether you're listening in the car, wherever you're at, you probably are going through a range of emotions right now, whether you're listening to it fresh after the game is over, as soon as this podcast is released, or if you're waiting until the next day and maybe slept on it overnight. You could be feeling anger, you could be feeling sadness, depression, hopelessness. There are a lot of ways that Kings fans can feel after this loss. And look, here's how this podcast is going to go, to make it perfectly clear. The first segment, we're going to talk about and break down the game and really the effort that the Sacramento Kings gave. I think this was the best shot that the Kings could really fire at this point in the season with the injuries that they're dealing with. I'll explain why, and we'll run through this entire game in the first segment. Second segment, I'm going to play for you audio from De'Aaron Fox and Mike Brown, who basically called out the officiating at the end of tonight's game, and I'll share my thoughts on some of the things they had to say. Then the final segment of this podcast, I'll run you through all of the different scenarios heading into Sunday, the final day of the NBA regular season. We'll find out where the Kings are going to fall, what needs to happen for the Kings still to finish 8th. That dream is not dead, right? The Kings still can avoid disaster of 9th or 10th, and they're currently sitting in 9th right now after the Lakers beat the Memphis Grizzlies, just barely, by the way. So I'll share all the scenarios of what can happen on Sunday at the end of this podcast. So if you need to skip through, if you're looking for something specific, if you only want to hear about the officiating, go to the next segment. If you only want to hear about the scenarios, jump through to the end. I hope you listen to the full podcast, though, because there's so much from this game that I want to talk about. Truth be told, the Kings fought like absolute hell in this game. And I've heard those comments from Mike Brown. I've heard those comments from different Kings media members and personalities here in Sacramento. I've read and seen those comments from Kings fans. And recently, that's kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because the Kings fighting and giving their all has never been a problem, right? I've never doubted that the Kings are going to be working as hard as they can with the injuries that they're dealing with. They recognize the moment. They know how big these games are and how important these games are. So I never questioned, hey, are the Sacramento Kings going to go for it, right? Never felt that way at all. And to me, in so many ways, even with the injuries to Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter, the Kings giving it their all in these massive games, especially at home down the stretch, like that's the bare minimum of expectation. So normally I would hear the comments that I just made there and kind of not necessarily roll my eyes at it and go like, yeah, big deal. They gave it their all. They fought hard. They played hard. That's what they should be doing every night. But truly, the Kings gave it their absolute all against a stacked Phoenix Suns team who had just as much to play for as the Kings did. Facing Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, plus that excellent supporting cast in Phoenix, a team that coming into this season we were labeling as essentially a championship or bust team. When you have that many stars, it doesn't matter how good the Western Conference is, you are supposed to be at the top of it. Now, I know they've dealt with injuries and things like that to put them in the position that they're in. The Kings come into this game. They have their 2 stars in Fox and Sabonis, who both played well. They have their young core. They also have a guy who was on a 2-way contract earlier in the season starting. They're missing their 6th man of the year. They're missing one of their starters. I'm not trying to make an excuse. I'm laying all that out for this reason. and this might be depressing for you to hear. Genuinely, realistically, I don't know if the Kings can fire a better shot than they did tonight in a massive game. Everything about this game from the Sacramento Kings screamed playoffs, right? 4 out of the 5 starters played minimum 41 minutes. Mike Brown had an 8-man rotation. And the guy who played the most off the bench was Davion Mitchell with 20 minutes. The other guys were in single-digit minutes, right? The Kings had a playoff rotation. Guys played super heavy minutes. Sacramento shot a respectable 44% from the field, 36% from three-point range, 92% from the free throw line. Now, could those shooting percentages be better? Absolutely. But at that point, that's more luck than it is like these are the percentages that are around the average or the standard for what the Sacramento Kings have been doing all season long. I've talked about offense versus defense. Why does it seem like the defense is great on nights where the offense struggles, and then the offense is great, like last night against the New Orleans Pelicans? The offense was fantastic. They scored over 120 points, but gave up 130, right? It always feels like it's one or the other. Well, tonight, the defense was excellent for basically the entire game against Phoenix. And the offense started slow and had lulls, but the offense was never in a position where I was like, oh, this is bad. This offense is just not capable of playing to the way of what we expect. How playoff basketball is supposed to be, is going to be, is exactly how this game played out. And without Malik Monk and without Kevin Huerter, I think the Kings gave it their absolute best. And it still wasn't enough. I'm not telling you that to make you feel better. I'm not telling you that to make excuses. I'm telling you the reality of just where this team is at this point in time. Like, I don't know if the Kings realistically can play overall a better game of basketball than that. If they can, it's marginal. It was not perfect. The shooting could have been better. They could have made different defensive plays, right? We can get real nitpicky and in the weeds. But overall, outside of playing a damn near perfect basketball game, which is almost impossible at the NBA level for a completely healthy team packed with stars, I just don't know if the Kings can fire a better shot or give their all more than they did tonight. They only turned the ball over 7 times, resulting in 7 Phoenix Suns points. Now, unfortunately, they had 4 turnovers going into the fourth quarter, 3 costly turnovers in the fourth quarter. That was the big difference in this game, including De'Aaron Fox's turnover at the end of the game. That is what sparked all this officiating controversy. Again, we're going to address that and get into all of that in the next segment. Meanwhile, the Kings defensively forced 19 turnovers for Phoenix and scored 22 points off of those turnovers. The Kings and Suns were an even 44 to 44 points in the paint. Sure, the Kings could have scored more in the paint like they did last night, but it wasn't like they were terrible in the paint. It wasn't like they weren't trying to attack the rim, and it wasn't like they got bullied and blown out in the paint. Again, it was even with Phoenix. Then the Kings won the second chance points battle, 15-6. That's not particularly close. They won the fast break battle, 11-9. All 3 of your big 3, right, your core 3 of Fox, Sabonis, and Murray. It's really a core 4 if you include Monk, but of course he's not playing. All 3 of them scored over 20 points. And here's the thing. We finally got that scoring game from Domantas Sabonis that we've been calling for, asking for, and waiting for over the course of this stretch in this playoff race with Monk and Huerter out. 25 points, 9 of 18 from the field, 2 of 3 from three-point range, 12 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals. How can I ask for much more of Domas than what he provided? Sure, I could have asked for a triple-double. Get me 1 more assist. Hell, that would have been the difference in the game, losing by 1, right? Or would have been a difference in the game. Domantas Sabonis was not very good in the fourth quarter compared to how attack-minded he was in the first 3 quarters. Of course, things change, and you clamp up and get a little more isolation-heavy and go more and lean more on De'Aaron Fox and your other stars, or mainly De'Aaron Fox in the fourth quarter, so Domas takes more of a backseat. It's what he's always done when playing with Fox here in Sacramento over his time, and more often than not in the fourth quarter for the Kings, it has worked. If you were to get a 25, 12, and 9 plus 2 steals performance from Domas at 1 or 2 points during the playoffs against the Golden State Warriors, Kings are making it to the second round, right? So it's hard to ask for much more than that game that Sabonis gave you. On top of that, Keegan Murray steps up. You're asking for someone else to provide scoring in addition to De'Aaron Fox. Keegan Murray does that on top of Sabonis' big night. 23 points, 9 of 19 from the field, 5 of 12 from three-point range. Could Keegan have hit more threes? Sure. But again, we're talking about things that are very, very difficult to do. We're talking about things that you can see areas where they could theoretically improve, but we're getting closer and closer to asking for perfection, which is just tough to do in a game like this, on a stage like this, in a moment like this. So Keegan Murray, 7 rebounds, 3 steals in addition to his 23 points. Then you have 23 from De'Aaron Fox. Could I ask for more from De'Aaron in terms of scoring the basketball? Sure. He shot 9 of 23 from the field. Fox, you hit a few more shots, you win this basketball game. There are little areas where we can ask for more. But again, as a team, I don't know how much better of an overall game you can ask for from Sacramento than what they gave you. And again, it still wasn't enough. Fox also had 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals in this game. The three of those 4 steals were in the first 5 minutes. De'Aaron was locked in defensively to start this game. So you get all of that. Plus, you get an awesome game out of Keon Ellis, who scores 17 points. It's hard to ask for much more than that offensively. He shot 7 of 11 from the field. Also had 3 rebounds, 2 steals. He was guarding everybody at any given time. Had time where he was guarding Kevin Durant, was guarding Bradley Beal in the second half. When Beal got going, was guarding Devin Booker for most of the first half, and then Devin took a while to get going and never really looked like that dangerous Booker that we've seen kill the Kings in the past. A lot of that has to do with Keon. So he's taking the bulk of the load defensively while still giving you 17 points. Again, how can we ask for more? Now, we could ask for more from the Kings bench, I suppose. You only got 7 points out of them, but again, only 3 of them played because you went so heavy on your starting rotation that they never really had enough playing time to give you more than that, right? Trey Lyles hit a 3. Davion Mitchell had a couple of buckets. That's pretty much it. And maybe we could have asked for more from Harrison Barnes too, but Harrison had a halfway decent game as well. And he was trying to share the basketball and fill his role and attack the rim when he could. I just realistically, I know the Kings statistically could have better moments and could have played better based off of who this team is and really the just slim to none margin of error, really the non-existent margin for error at this point with this Kings team because they're missing Monk and Herter. I just don't know if Kings fans can expect much better and much more than what Sacramento gave them tonight. You did blow a 16-point lead. That's been a common theme in this building for some reason this season. And once again, it come back to bite you. You had a 16-point lead in the third quarter. You blew it. The main reason why? Bradley Beal. In the first half, Bradley Beal, 2 points, 4 rebounds, 0 assists, 2 turnovers. That was his stat line at halftime. Bradley Beal ended the game with 20 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and only 3 turnovers. So he scored 18 points, including a 3 that tied the game at 91. Had 5 rebounds in the second half, all 4 of his assists in the second half, and only turned the ball over once in the second half, which was a big issue for the Suns all night long. Full credit to Bradley Beal, man. With Kevin Durant having the big first half that he had, but quieting down in the second half. Really, the Suns made their big push with Durant and even Booker at times on the bench in the third quarter, led by Bradley Beal. And then they got timely buckets from Grayson Allen, who has killed the Kings from the perimeter so far this season. Yusuf Nurkic had some big buckets as well. There's just so much from this game where it's like the Kings had it, man. They absolutely had it. And they just could not close the door. They could not get it done in the most important game of the season. But one of the reasons why the Kings feel they could not get it done is because of the officiating. And according to Mike Brown, that's not just an issue for tonight. That's been a consistent issue over the course of this final stretch of the season where the Kings have been fighting for their playoff lives. You're going to hear De'Aaron Fox's angry comments and Mike Brown's dejected comments about the officiating when we come back. Before that, though, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by a couple of sponsors. The first being Stitch Fix. You know that instant confidence boost that you get from an outfit that makes you look really good? Well, that's what I get with Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and your budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. You can easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. I gave my stylist my size and my measurements, and they build me a wardrobe that is specific for me. Now, I am a 6'3", nearly 6'4", skinny man, right? So it is difficult to find things that fit me right and fit me comfortably. Things that are either too tight and too short, or things that are too big that I'm absolutely swimming in, right? Stitch Fix removes all that concern for me, and I don't have to shop for it myself. I send them all the sizes that I am. They tailor their wardrobe for me and send me stuff from a wide variety of styles that I want to try or that I know that I like or they think that might look good on me. I try them out. Whatever I like, I keep. Whatever I don't like, I can send back. Stitch Fix is just incredible for updating your wardrobe and making it as easy as possible. And if you don't love something, again, you can just exchange it. Shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. Style that makes you feel good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. Locked On Kings is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not burning cash. With all the parts you need at the prices that you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Both De'Aaron Fox and Mike Brown made it very clear right away in their post-game press conferences that they were not happy with the officiating, especially with the final play of the game. I'm going to play for you first De'Aaron Fox's comments, followed by Coach Brown's comments. It's going to take up the bulk of this segment. Then I'll come back on the other side of it, share my opinion, share my view on the situation, and talk about the fine line between making an excuse and having a legitimate gripe. But for now, here are your comments, or here are the comments from Fox and Brown.
De'Aaron, can you walk us through that last play and just what you saw from your perspective?
I got fouled. Wasn't even close to the ball, so.
De'Aaron, can you kind of walk us through the play design there at the end, and was it Brad that you felt like got you and where?
I didn't feel like anything. You can go watch it. He very clearly got me, but when it's me, they always say I didn't see it or whatever, or marginal contact, so. It doesn't matter what the play was. If I got fouled, I got fouled. I'm trying to pick up the ball, hits my whole arm. They get the steal.
From my seat, I'm just baffled. I'm not sure why we can't get a call from an NBA official down the stretch. For them to call a box out on Sabonis, a box out foul when the game is as physical as it is, and give them 2 free throw attempts to take the lead with seconds left in the game. And then I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but from my seat, it looked like Fox got hit across the arm. And, I actually pray that I'm wrong, because then I'll sleep better at night. But we got beat by New Orleans. They came in here and they beat us. But if you look at our other losses besides that, again, from my seat, it looked like De'Aaron got fouled across the arm. In Oklahoma City, Shea traveled. In Boston, Colby gets smacked in the face. And, in real time, when you're trying to plead your case, guys look at you and they say there was no contact and there was no this and no that. And it's just tough when you can't get a call, but the other team keeps getting calls, and the officials feel like that they're right, and then the 2-minute report comes out, and Shea traveled, Kobe got smacked in the face, and they go home and sleep at night, and we're up all night fretting over the game because we're fighting for our playoff lives. So it's tough to see it from my seat. And like I said, I hope the officials were right in the no call, especially when they called a box-out foul on Domas to give Nurkic 2 free throws to put him up. But it's just a tough way to lose basketball games when stuff is as obvious as it is, but there's no call.
Like building off that.
Go ahead. No, you're good.
Building off of what you were talking about, not trying to get you in trouble, is there anything Fox can do? I mean, he's made it known vocally after games that he feels he's not getting the whistle that other stars in this league get. From your opinion, working with different stars, is it just a reputation thing? Is there something physically he can do, building a relationship with officials, or is it just something that just has to naturally happen?
But it's going to have to kind of naturally happen. He's got a couple of things probably going against him. The officials probably don't look at him in that category. I don't know. They probably look at the Kings on our jersey. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But in the 2 losses before our Boston game against New York and against Dallas, we had 22 free throws combined, and Luka and Brunson had a combined 24 free throws. And if you add the rest of the team up, it was 62-22. And I'm assuming we have to do more in the league to get the respect from the officials. That's what I'm assuming, because it's just tough to wait for the 2-minute report and hear these things when it's right in front of them, and there's 3 of them. And like I said, man, just from my seat, it looked like he got fouled. I hope I'm wrong, because to get another 2-minute report that says that they made a crucial mistake in a game of this magnitude when we're fighting for our playoff lives, it's just not fair.
A lot to unpack there from what both of them said. First off, in real time, it was hard to see if there was a foul or not from my perspective. Now, I'm also shooting the game from my angle. I went back and I actually, I'll play it for you here. I slowed down the footage from my angle as best as I possibly could with my camera to see if there was contact. Now, unfortunately, Devin Booker is standing like right in between me and De'Aaron. But I zoom in really, really tight, try and slow it down as much as possible within reason with the best image that I could get. It looks like there might have been contact with De'Aaron Fox's left wrist by Bradley Beal's left hand, right? Swiping down when Fox was clearly trying to go up to get a shot. Unfortunately, it's not clear whether or not Fox had full control of the ball before that or not. Not that that really matters too much. If you're hit on the wrist, you're hit on the wrist. Fox clearly felt like it was a foul. Mike Brown echoed the feeling that it was a foul. Fox took the more angry approach, right? De'Aaron Fox talking about, hey, I was fouled. You can clearly see that I was fouled. And they always tell me they missed it or it's marginal contact. They're always giving Fox excuses. Now, this is not the first time that De'Aaron has been frustrated with the officiating. In fact, a lot down the stretch of this season, he's brought up the officiating, not just for how he's officiated, although he feels he's definitely officiated differently from his fellow stars like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or a Devin Booker. He feels he just does not get that respect. And he's also talked about how the Kings are officiated as a team, like now that they've started to play more physical down the stretch, and officials are, in theory, letting both teams get away with more, it still feels like the Kings are getting called for things that the other team is not. I'm not going to go too deep in the weeds with that. Then you have Mike Brown's perspective of things, where Mike is really the one that I feel for, really the stuff that I want to talk about, because I've seen the reactions already, and you might have these reactions too. And share with me your thoughts on the officiating if you want to get loose on it. If you want to do it in the comment section on YouTube, do that. If you want to hit me up personally, you can reach me on Twitter at MattGeorgeSack. You can email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com. A lot of the responses that I saw immediately from those comments were, here you go, you're making excuses. Good players, major players in those moments don't make excuses, right? Part of me understands that. The other part of me is with Mike Brown when he's saying, look, down the stretch, we're fighting for our playoff lives here. And there have been now, if a last 2-minute report comes out tomorrow and confirms what Mike and De'Aaron are saying, that Fox was fouled there and no foul was called, that's tonight's game, the Celtics game, and the Oklahoma City Thunder game, where there were 3 major calls down the stretch that the league admitted they missed, all against Sacramento, that resulted in losses. I'm not saying the Kings deserve to win all 3 of those games or should have won all 3 of those games, but they win 1 out of the 3, they're in a completely different spot. They win 2 out of the 3, they're absolutely in a different spot. We're talking about them still having a chance to take the 6th seed. Now, there also might be the reaction of, Matt, this game didn't come down to the final couple plays. You had a 16-point lead. You blew it. You had different opportunities in the fourth quarter to win. You screwed up. Bad turnovers in the fourth quarter. Didn't take put the team away. Like, I understand all of that feedback as well. So it's hard to really dissect and break down the officiating. Do officials miss calls? Yes, absolutely. And I apologize if you're listening to this podcast wanting me to get upset. Tell you what, I will be getting upset if the last 2-minute report comes out tomorrow and confirms that the league missed it again. I'm going to be pissed, right? And I would not blame Mike Brown, who I don't think is ever going to do this, but if Mike Brown started his pregame press conference on Sunday before the Kings-Blazers game and just ripped the you-know-what out of the officials and out of the NBA for continuing to get these calls wrong against Sacramento down the stretch, and it's having this drastic of effect on their play-in lives and playoff lives, Mike is justified in doing that, because the last 2-minute report already is a joke, because it's just an admittance of a mistake, but nothing is actually done to correct it or fix it. It's just a really, really, the best way to sum it up is what Mike Brown said. It's not fair. So maybe that's not what you want to hear after a bad loss like this that the Kings could have, and some would say should have won. It's the reality of the league and the reality of the moment. It's telling how Fox and Mike both so openly spoke up about it. They probably are going to get fined. I have no idea, but clearly they don't care, because they needed to get their message across. And now you've heard it here on Locked On Kings. Before we get to all of the scenarios for Sunday, because there's a lot that can happen on the final day of the season, today's episode of Locked On Kings is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and in the NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on all of the action. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. All you have to do is sign up. There's $150 in bonus bets right away for you. You deposit some of your own money as well, and you can bet on the play-in games. You can bet on all the playoffs. You can bet on so many fun prop, side, in-game, money line. There's so many different ways for you to play and to ultimately make money on FanDuel. And of course, you can do it around the Sacramento Kings journey throughout the play-in and hopefully into the playoffs. You can bet on anything from a slap shot to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So as frustrated, depressed, dejected, sad as we're feeling right now, because, my last podcast after the Pelicans loss was saying the Kings season is on the edge of disaster. We're now in disaster mode, right? The Kings are sitting in the 9th seed. If this holds, the difference between 9 and 8 is absolutely catastrophic. The bad news is, with this loss tonight, the Kings have lost all opportunity to have the 7th seed, right? It's just gone. And unfortunately, had the Kings won this game tonight, pulled out this win, and then beaten Portland on Sunday, they would have secured the 7th seed. They would have. They would have secured the 7th seed, which means home court advantage throughout the play-in. So that's how, 1 point made that big of a difference in this play-in race. But the 8th seed is still possible. Here are the scenarios for Sunday. The Sacramento Kings face the Portland Trail Blazers. They've lost to them already this season. They can't lose, right? They just can't lose to Portland. And I hope I'm not trying to jinx anything. Like they cannot lose to Portland on Sunday. I'll tell you what could happen if they do lose. But let's say they win and the Lakers lose. The Lakers are playing our best friends, the New Orleans Pelicans, who beat the Golden State Warriors for Sacramento tonight. If the Lakers lose and the Kings win, the Kings secure 8 because they would tie with the Lakers, but the Kings have the tiebreaker over the Lakers because they beat LA all 4 times this season. So the Kings would take the 8th seed, which means more than likely we're getting a Kings-Suns play-in rematch, but that game would be in Phoenix. Now, if the Kings win and the Lakers win, the Lakers are taking on, like I said, the Pelicans. If the Pelicans don't get the job done, then the Kings finish 9th. And we get what I consider to be one of the worst possible case scenarios, period, which is we get a Game 7 rematch, Kings-Warriors here inside the Golden One Center, except this time the Warriors have been playing well as of late, and the Kings, as we know, are shorthanded. Now, if the Kings lose and the Warriors win, the Warriors are taking on the Utah Jazz. Steve Kerr said post-game tonight after the Warriors lost to the Pelicans that he's heavily considering resting a lot of guys against Utah because no matter what, the best the Warriors can finish is 9th. But they're locked in that 9-10. So they know they're going to have to win 2 games without losing to actually get into the playoffs. So Steve, I don't think, cares whether he's at home or on the road. He just wants to rest his guys. So there's a chance that the Kings do lose to the Jazz. The Warriors do lose to the Jazz. But if the Warriors beat the Jazz, even shorthanded, and Sacramento loses to Portland, now we're talking absolute doomsday because the Kings finish in 10th and the Kings have to go to Chase Center and beat the Warriors in a 1-game playoff in order to keep their hopes alive and still win another game on top of that against the loser of 7 and 8 to make it to the playoffs as an 8th seed. Now, it's important to understand the situations of the other teams, right? Like the New Orleans Pelicans, like we said, are playing the Lakers. The Pelicans have a ton to play for still because the Pelicans have lost to the Phoenix Suns twice. With the Suns win tonight, they're still very much alive. If the Suns beat the Minnesota Timberwolves on Sunday and the Pelicans lose, the Suns leapfrog the Pelicans and they take the 6th seed and New Orleans drops to 7. Of course, both of those teams are going to be fighting like hell to avoid the play-in and to secure an actual playoff spot outright. So both teams are going to be given their all. So the Pelicans are absolutely going to try and do everything they can to beat the Los Angeles Lakers, which of course works in Sacramento's favor. It's also important to note for the Phoenix Suns, they're taking on a Minnesota Timberwolves team. Minnesota, normally the last day of the season, a team that's as established in the playoff hunt or in the playoff picture as the Timberwolves are, normally they shut everybody down and rest everybody for the playoffs. But that's probably not going to be the case with the Timberwolves because the Timberwolves are in a 3-way tie right now with the Denver Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder for the number 1 seed. So if the Timberwolves lose to Phoenix, that could drop them all the way down to 3 or 2, right? The difference between 2 and 3 and 1 isn't necessarily massive, except for when you get into the later rounds of the playoffs. And of course, if the Timberwolves were to meet either of those 2 teams late in the playoffs, we're talking Western Conference Finals time. Naturally, they want to have home court advantage. So I expect the Timberwolves to also be giving their all against Phoenix on Sunday. So a lot of teams still have a whole hell of a lot to play for, both at the top and the bottom of the playoff picture right now, which means we are in for a hell of an NBA Sunday because all teams play at like noon or 12:30 or whatever time it is, all games going on at the same time, right? So teams can't sandbag, right? The Pelicans couldn't wait to see how the Sun game goes, and then they could not play anybody if they found out that the Suns lost, right? Every team is playing at the same time. Every team, in some way, has to win on Sunday, including, of course, your Sacramento Kings. So it's going to make for a wild day, a crazy day. On paper, this should be a W for Sacramento. But how many times have we talked about games where on paper the Kings have screwed up this year? And again, I hate to bring it up. You already lost to Portland the day after Christmas. You lost to Charlotte. You lost to Washington. You lost to Detroit. 4 losses right there. You win 2 of them, you're in a completely different spot. You win 3 of them, you're probably in the 6th seed right now. You win all 4 of them, you're definitely in the 6th seed right now. It's the position the Kings have put themselves in, man. That's why it goes further beyond the Monk and Herter injury, because the Kings lost all 4 of those games when Monk and Herter were still playing for Sacramento. It's just brutal. But here we are. Like I said, coming into tonight's game, the context of the rest of the season does not matter. The context of the season beforehand does not matter. The context of who's injured and who's healthy does not matter. You just got to win. You nearly pulled it off tonight. You gave it your freaking all and you came up short. But Sunday, you just got to win and hope to hell that you get some help from the Pelicans. Because if you do, you secure the 8th seed, you get a rematch against Phoenix. You can even still lose that game, and then you would have a home game against the winner of the Warriors or Lakers here in Sacramento for a chance to still make it to the playoffs. You got to get 8. You have to get 8. Now, unfortunately, because you didn't handle your business tonight, you lost control of your destiny. Now you need to do half the work, which is beat Portland, and need the Pelicans to do the other half for you. Sunday could either be a great day or a colossal disaster, even bigger than tonight. We'll see how it all plays out. And of course, whatever happens, I'll have reaction for you right here on the Locked On Kings podcast. Take a day to soak everything, soak this loss in. The Kings will have tomorrow off. They've played 3 games in 4 nights, and they have not gone well. This is the worst stretch of the season for Sacramento, and it's coming at the absolute worst time. But they still have a chance to avoid disaster. So all you can ask for is a chance. They got that Sunday. So take Saturday. We all need to take Saturday as a breather. Get ready. If you're coming to the game on Sunday, bring every bit of energy that you got. Anything that we can add to the Kings' chances, anything we can do to make their chances better, we need to do as a city. We'll see how it plays out. Appreciate you. Love you no matter what. Thank you so much for your support. Again, weigh in. Share with me your thoughts on everything from tonight's game. Hit me up, and I will read them and respond to them, and we'll rally on Sunday and see how it goes. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.